Welcome, everyone, to the 4x4 Canada podcast. I'm your host, Trisha.
And I'm your other host, Wes.
And today we have a special guest with us. His name is Josh from NOORJC, which is a Northern Ontario Off-Road Jeep Club.
Welcome to the podcast, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a blast. I just want to do a quick little bit of housekeeping at the beginning here, and then we'll hop right into it. I know you got lots going on over there, and really excited to hear what's happening in Northern Ontario. We always talk about Southern Ontario, but I'll be honest with you, I'd much rather spend time up in Northern Ontario than Southern Ontario. So I am very excited to talk to you about wheeling up there. First of all, I just want to remind our listeners that springtime is here and it's also time to do some cleaning. And we have a great relationship with a company called TOC Supplies in the General Toronto area. And they basically do all kinds of supplies for vehicle detailing. And we've had them on the podcast about a little bit over a year ago. We're going to have them again on soon. And we're reminded that our listeners to go to TOC Supplies /4x4 Canada, and that is where you get special deals on the cleaning supplies. And we've done some reviews on them before. You get 10% off, and check them out. Great company. We're going to get them back on because I really need to detail my vehicle again, and I really need some help and some hints. So we're going to have them back on again soon because I need to learn about it all over again. Last week's episode, we had the folks from BC Overland Rallies, and great episode with them. We talked all about the rally. We've talked about their trip from London to Shanghai in a Land Rover, and great group of people. That event's coming up on middle of July 13th, 14th, 15th, I believe. And it's moved to a new location in Kelowna, and really looking forward to this location. We've seen some pictures of it, and they sent me some more information, and it's going to be far better location than it was the last couple of years. Once again, last week's episode with the BC Overland Rally. And next week we have Jason coming up from Overland, Alberta, and he's on YouTube and Instagram, and he's got a lot of really neat videos. He's a Jeep boy. He's also running the Dodge pickup as well. But if you want to learn a little bit more about exploring in Alberta, Jason's the guy to talk to. He's also one of the original people with the Alberta Outdoor Adventure Expo. And this is just a couple hours west of Edmonton on the September long weekend. I think they're going into their third or fourth year now. So we also talked about that. And as well, we also talked a little bit about the Trails for Tomorrow, which is a provincial organization in Alberta that has been making steps to keeping our lands open, our trails open, and they're working with a lot of different user groups. And Jason is the vice president of that association. About a month ago, we talked with Vil, and he's the president of Trails for Tomorrow. So if you haven't heard that, go back and check it out. The Trails for Tomorrow organization is very much like your Full Drive Association of BC, or in your guys' Ontario, the OF4WD over there, where they're working on keeping the trails open and working with different organizations to make it so it's multi-user as well. And seem to be really taking off and doing a really great job here in Alberta. So Jason is coming up next week. And like I say, that's going to be a really fun interview. Jason and I have been talking for a long time trying to get this going. And I'm really looking forward to it as well, too. But tonight we are here with Josh from NOORJC. Did I say that right?
Yeah. It's a mouthful no matter how you say it.
As I mentioned earlier, definitely appreciate you coming on board here tonight. And I know it's late over in Ontario, and I appreciate you got both you and Trisha spending the time with us tonight. Trisha, do you want to hop right into it?
Sure. So let's talk about the club. So the Northern Ontario Off-Road Jeep Club. They're the sister club of Central Off-Road Jeep Club, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And where can our listeners find the group? Do you guys have a website, social media, Facebook?
NOORJC has a Facebook page. I think we've got over 1,000 members on Facebook. Not too bad. Mark Sims created the Southern Ontario Off-Road Jeep Club.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to set to retire in a couple of years. This is 2019. And I want a club to wheel in Northern Ontario when I retire because I'm coming back home. He's from Espanola. So he asked me if I'd start the club. Central takes care of our fees, takes care of our website. We have www.noorjc.com.
Okay.
but it's through the central club. So everything flows through that. We just get members. So
because I'm from BC and not as familiar as what you guys are that are out there all the time, when you're saying northern, where are you thinking?
So we're based out of North Bay. We have members who are from Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, but obviously don't get over here very often to wheel. Our main system, just outside of North Bay, there's a trail system called VMUTS, and it's about 300 kilometers of ATV. It's a multi-use trail system, Voyageur multi-use trail system, VMUTS. We have motorbikes, we have ATVs, we have side-by-sides, we have Jeeps, we have Skidoos in the winter. We've seen horseback riders out there, mountain bike riders. It's a little bit of everything.
That's great to see multi-user stuff because we all got to live here. We ought to share it and work together to keep those trails going. So that is great to see. Would love to get into the VMUTS in a second.
For yourself, what do you do at NOORJ, and what is your off-roading beginning story? Just curious.
So I'm the president. I have been for the whole time it's been in existence. I'm basically the chef, cook, and chief bottle washer. So a little bit of everything. I started wheeling. I bought my first Jeep in 2015. Bare bones, JK Unlimited, no AC, roll-up windows, everything. Ran that for 3 years, realized I actually enjoyed off-roading. I got into a Rubicon, and then I actually switched out to a Gladiator. And I'm actually on my second Gladiator.
As somebody that's wheeled both Gladiator and a regular Jeep, what are your thoughts between the difference? Obviously, there's a wheelbase difference in that. What do you think of?
There are definitely things that the 4-door or even a 2-door are much better for. Turning radius is definitely one of them. Trying to turn that thing on a single lane trail is a little bit more difficult. I have steel bumpers at both ends because I know I'm taking a tree out. But the Gladiator, because of the longer wheelbase, there's stuff where a 2-door or even a 4-door would have an incredibly hard time getting up, and I just lay it on top of it and run it right up. And then, of course, I can move a little bit faster than the 4-doors can because the suspension's a little bit easier because of the wheelbase. And it never hurts to have a lot more cargo area in the back with the truck bed.
It's true.
So,
yeah, that's something that Jeeps lack a little bit on is cargo area, right?
That's it. That's why the Gladiators are so popular for the overlanding crowd, because they can actually take everything with them.
Yeah, it's really interesting how wheelbase plays into things. I was out on the weekend and there's a YJ with us, and Gladiator and my Tacoma went through a creek crossing no problem, and he was sitting there spinning, just hitting the wrong spots on the wheelbase. So it can work for you or it can work against you.
Absolutely. There's a trail system down Southern Ontario Scotch Line that I've done several times, and I see how a 4-door does it, and I know I have to take a different route, right? Just because I can't get through there because I can't turn that tight, or I've got to approach it. I got to go to the one side or the other because I won't make it up that hill because I'll turtle myself.
Yep.
But then there are other times I'll roll through and they're still struggling to get through.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to it for sure. So what have you done to your latest Gladiator?
Let's see. I have a 2-inch leveling kit in it, AEV, which is really nice. I had 35s on it. I took them back and went back down to the stock 33s over the winter just because the gas mileage is horrendous. But because it's also my daily driver too. I've got Trailhead custom front bumper, which is really nice. Short, nice, stubby. Always works well. Got some aftermarket lights. Probably the thing that I like the best is I have onboard air. I have it hooked up. I have an ARB twin air compressor in the truck bed. So it's out of the way.
Yep.
But I can fill up those 35-inch tires in about a minute and a half, which is
so nice.
fantastic. Right?
Nice.
Right? It's instead of sitting on the road for 45 minutes waiting for the tires to fill up, I'm gone in 10.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one of my pet peeves. I'll be flat out honest with you. And that's sometimes why I air down, just because I find it annoying.
Yeah.
I've done a few trails where I haven't aired down and it's got to be aired down. I usually do about 15 PSI just so I have a little bit of...
Yeah, something to go with. You mentioned fuel mileage earlier, and I'm just curious, what are you guys sitting at for fuel mileage in your areas? Or for fuel prices, I should say.
Oh my God. I was up in North Bay, so do you want to tell him the North Bay prices that was right now?
So we actually dropped. They were at about $1.83, and now we're
Yeah.
down to about $1.75 now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
we're
and
what
our
do you got in
area-
Toronto?
Toronto, like Mississauga area, 172, but dropped down to 162 right now.
Toronto's typically about 10 to 15 cents cheaper than us.
Yeah. Yeah. Out here in Kamloops, BC, we're running about $1.85 in that area.
Mhm.
And I know down at the coast, they're over $2 at the coast, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot more provincial tax. Like they have a tax on the lower mainland of 15 cents or something like that, that goes back apparently to the transit things back down at the coast. So
Well,
they get nailed with that one, unfortunately. But it's interesting to see what the fuel prices are off here. We were talking about housing prices, and but yeah, fuel prices seem to stay the same, except for Alberta's always a little bit less. And
Yeah.
I'm curious for our listeners, let us know what they said at your place, because I think it's a little cheaper out east, I think, too, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think it might
Maybe
be.
we'll- Maybe we'll have to make a Instagram post, make that our Wednesday question or something coming up. So.
Yeah. So you talk about wheeling. So are you more of a wheeler? Do you overland as well and camp?
I like to do both. So the trail system that I have, VMUTS, is I can be at one of the major trailheads in less than 45 minutes from my house, and that's going to the far end.
Nice.
And so I have a travel trailer that's the ideal weekend for me because it's land. It's drive out, drop the trailer off, camp all weekend, Jeep all weekend, hook the trailer back up and come home. And it's cost me fuel and food.
Yeah.
So
That's perfect. That's
Nice.
awesome. It's right there.
Nice and close for sure. Hopping back into the NOORJC for one quick second, how do people get involved? Say they're listening to the podcast, say, hey, you know what? I'm in wherever up north and I would mind getting involved with it. How do they join the clubs? I guess it would be through your website that you mentioned earlier, right?
yeah, so www.noorjc.com. And then I believe our fee this year is $15. So Central, I believe, is $25. So with that, if you join, this is the thing, if you join a club, there's the OF4WD, which is the Ontario Federation. It's kind of the provincial overbody, if you will. I'm actually on the board as that as well. I'm one of the board of directors. So the fee to join up by itself for the OF4WD is $50. But if you have a club, it's $25. So it's actually $40. It's actually cheaper than signing up by yourself to go and find a club to do it with.
Yeah.
It just depends on the individual club fee, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And we have a few people from the OF4WD on, and we all think it's a great organization. And $40, you can spend that at McDonald's. So it goes great to a great organization. It goes towards helping work to keep those trails open and Camp NL and all the insurance, all that stuff. So it's a well worth the money to become involved in the association for sure. So 100%. You've mentioned a couple times VMUTS. What is VMUTS?
So VMUTS is Voyageur Multi-Use Trail System. So it's accessible by www.vmuts.ca. It is an organizing body that helps oversee those trails. They are a group as well. Like I'm on the board of directors for that as well, because I'm the 4x4 representation. They love us. So there's a fee for VMUTS as well.
Okay.
Where it gets a little tricky is VMUTS is also 90% crown lands. So there's a lot of, unfortunately, people out there that, it's crown land, I don't need to do it. But the money that we raise through the memberships goes back into trail maintenance.
Mm.
So it only makes sense if you want to play on the trails that you invest in them. And it's not much so with the ATVs, they have to buy an OF ATV pass. I think it's $150, but they can, anywhere the OF ATV is, they can ride on that trail for free afterwards. Whereas with the Jeeps, so the OF ATV gives VMUTS some of that money back to help do the trail system. Whereas with the 4x4s, any money they get from us is straight to them. So they love us. We actually have a partnership with the OF4WD. If you are an OF4WD member, you get a 20% discount. So you can buy a day pass, a week pass, or a year pass. The year pass is $75. And then you get a 20% discount if you're an OF4WD member. So you can have 300 kilometers of trails to run on with a club membership and an OF4WD membership for just over $100 or just a little less than $100, which is half a tank of gas.
Yep.
Right? So
That's an interesting concept in regard, and it totally makes sense to me. Paying to help keep those trails maintained, and there's always things to do. There's always work to do on trails, whether it be working with water crossings or general cleanups in some of the areas that people have left them not nice and stuff like that. But it's an interesting concept where I wonder how much of that we're going to start seeing a little bit more across Canada, more of a pay to use.
I wouldn't be surprised. And one of the reasons we actually do charge is because we do cross private land, and a couple of the main trails, you have to cross property or you're not getting anywhere. And we actually have no trespassing signs. You have to be a member to be on this part of the trail system. And since where that private land is, it's one of the actual major attractions on that loop. It only makes sense.
So what are the trails like in that area? Are they from a mild to wild kind of idea, or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's mostly Canadian Shield. We're not too far from the Ottawa River on the north side of it. If you're familiar with the North Bay area at all. So there's North Bay, and then about 45 minutes east is Mattawa on Highway 17 on your way to Ottawa. I can roll off of a road just outside of North Bay called Songus and get off of there and end up in Mattawa and have never touched actual pavement. And that's about 60 clicks or so.
Yeah. Nice. Trisha, I know you've been spending some time up in that area lately. Have you had a chance to do any wheeling up there?
No.
Or mostly because it's been winter when you've been up there,
Yeah,
right?
it's been winter. Yeah. No, I wish. And I know I spoke to a lot of ATVers out there, and everyone's just gearing up for the season to start. But this trail system, I think, I do have access to it, and I looked at the trail system, and it's really extensive. When Josh says 300 kilometers, you're like, wow, okay, I'm definitely gonna get lost. Like, if I don't have no navigation, I am definitely gonna get lost.
Yeah. So one of the things that you do is you get a full year pass. You also get a printed map to have. It gets mailed out to you. So there's another reason to have that.
Yeah, if you're using the trail system for any amount of time, it's worth doing the yearly pass. It'd be good to go. You can say there's a week pass as well too, right? If people just want to go up for a holiday or whatever. Yeah,
there's a day pass, there's a week pass, and there's a monthly pass. I'd have to actually check the website. It's been a while, but I want to say a day pass is $20 and a week pass is like $50. So the year pass is a no-brainer. You come back once and it's done, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So going back to the trails, is a bit of a variety. Is there some Canadian Shield stuff? Obviously, there's some good rock crawling and stuff like that on there. But is there some easier trails as well, too, for some of the people that are a little newer to the sport?
Absolutely. So VMUTS is, for lack of a better word, like a perfect beginner area. There's lots of, I don't know if you guys have in BC, like the trail ratings, like 1 through 5.
We don't, unfortunately.
So 1 is essentially a dirt road, like a regular graded dirt road. Trail 2 is a logging road. Trail 3 is definitely harder, but you shouldn't walk away with any body damage. And then Trail 4 is expect body damage. And 5 is for the buggies, like the massive frame only kind of things. I would say most of VMUTS is probably a 2-3.
Yep.
So great for beginners, great for starters. There are lots of, but the whole thing is, it's the main trail through the system is a hydro line. And there are, right through the whole thing, there's Guy who wants to go out for a Sunday drive with his dog, no issues. But 10 feet to the right, there's a spot where a buggy would have a hard time getting up. So there, as a general rule, 2s and 3s, but there are 4s. We actually have a trail that's very famous on that system. Most ATVers know it. It's known as 666. And for proper reason. I've been down it once. I will not be back. I'm driving my 4-door Rubicon, and because the ATVers do it, the ruts get into it while they're ATV size. So the Jeeps are either in one rut or the other, but not both. And I nearly ripped off both of my fenders on one side getting out of a rut. So no, I'm good.
And you mentioned that being Crown land and camping. So there's quite a bit of camping available out there. And it's just how does the camping work? Because I know here in BC we have what we call rec sites, and I know Alberta doesn't have them. I don't know if Ontario does or not. Is there designated camping areas?
So not with Crown land, at least not that I'm aware of. So what we have is basically if you find an open spot in the trail, you can camp there.
Right.
All right. But we do have a couple of areas that we have at least 2 areas where there are shelters and porta potties. So you can stop, take a break. There's one at the east end of the trail system closest to Mattawa. There's a large open area with a 15 by 15 shelter and a fire pit. And then you've got half a dozen slots where, like, I have a 26-foot travel trailer and it'll fit in those slots. Yes. So there's lots of spots to camp. That's actually, we've staged the last 2 years. We called it Camp VMUTS. First year we had about 30 Jeeps, and last year we had about 10, just because I was organizing it by myself. But basically we had everybody set up. There's another one not far from that, a bit less than a kilometer. There's another large open area, and we had 30 Jeeps in that area, and everybody was packed out tenting. So there's room. There's lots of room. There's half a dozen sites because it's a active logging area. There's lots of staging areas for the bigger vehicles, the skid loaders and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there's lots of spots to camp along the way. Pull up a tent.
You're all good. So what's your favorite trail out there?
So there's one major trail system that runs through the whole thing, but it actually has a couple of different numbers assigned to it. There's Trail 10, Trail 36, Trail 15, and part of 36 is also 93. 93 is a little bit more rocky, a little bit more muddy, a little bit more, still probably just a good solid 3, nothing major, but still a lot of fun. And with anything, if you're stupid about it, you can still break something. So,
is there a North Bay, to me, from my experience, it's wilderness out there. There's all kinds of, as you mentioned, the trails with the VMUTS trail system and that, but is there a really strong off-road community up there?
We've had a dedicated group of probably about 25 or 30 over the years. I haven't been able to really expand that as of late, but there's always someone to go wheeling with. Everybody's at a different skill level. I have guys that I wheel with that, like, they're rocking 2-door TJs with 6-inch lifts and 40-inch super swampers on them, to I have people who are still driving stock Jeeps with stock highway tires on them. So a little bit of everything. We have a couple of members that actually, believe it or not, come from the London area a lot of the times.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's a few guys I know that have mentioned that as well. So you've got obviously some wheeling right there. Have you had a chance to maybe go a little farther north?
No, I've gone north of the city. There's a couple of old maintained logging roads out there that I've explored by myself, but nothing
at Port Sioux or anything like that.
No, apparently Sudbury's got some really good wheeling. I haven't, because I'm running the club, I'm usually organizing the runs here every weekend. So hard to get away. And when I do, it's usually to go south to do something with the Central Club. I usually try and get at least 1 or 2 runs in a year with them. And last couple of years, I've been helping organize Camp NL as well.
It's also open to people from, say, Sudbury and stuff like that.
Oh, God, yeah. So we're a Jeep club. The Central's a little bit more sticky about you actually driving a Jeep. But in Northern Ontario, if you got a 4x4 and you want a wheel, I'm there with you. I don't care what you drive. One of my main members is driving a Nissan Frontier.
Open everything, right? So
don't care.
Yeah, it's nice to see some different vehicles out there as well too. So I'm a former Xterra owner, so I've got a soft spot for those Nissans, and sometimes I hate them and sometimes I love them. But just like a Jeep, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've guided 2 years in a row. I've actually the Land Rovers of Ontario.
Okay.
I've been out. Yeah, a whole bunch of old Discoveries, Defenders, and a 1972 Kinsgauer Swedish military vehicle.
Oh, those are
really cool.
Right?
See,
that is wild. Definitely. So, Northern Ontario, rocks and mud, right? That's pretty much.
Yes and no. We have a lot of rock. We have a lot of mud, but we have a lot of, especially towards Mattawa, towards the east system, a lot of sand.
Oh,
yeah. There's a lot of pines and firs, but they're actually built on, it's basically fine sand. So if you want to get buried, you can.
I like sand about as much as I like mud. So
there you go. I'm with Jeeping. For me, myself personally, my wife and I like to get out. She likes to see the wildlife that we see and see the flowers and all the different plant life. I drive a Jeep because if there's a road on the side and I want to go, ooh, where does that go? I can do that. I'm more about exploring. So and that's why I say I'm not really an overlander. I'm not really a mud guy. I'm not really a rock crawler. I want to go explore. I want to see what I can see.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that one for sure. Sorry. Trisha, you want to hop in there?
Yeah. You were talking about the different trails and what you've been on and your favorite. And I noticed that the trail system there, you guys go by numbers, where the other trail system in Peterborough area, that trail system goes by actual names.
Yes, so that was designated way before I started. Like the VMUTS board committee's been around since like the 80s. In some sort of variation or whatever, and those are the ones who name the trails. We just got a number. We've actually made a couple of new trails. But we can only do so much because with the Ministry of Ontario, Ministry of the Environment, we can't just blaze a new trail. We have to use either previously used logging roads or where the loggers have been. Once they've down that, then we can make a trail out of it. But we can't just go and say, I'm going to make a new trail off in this branch of the woods.
Yeah, there's a whole tread lightly aspect to it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So are there some trails that are more, because it is multi-use, right? So there's ATVers and like dirt bikes going on. I guess the dirt bikes and ATVs love the sand. That would be fun. I would love to take my dirt bike up there. Is there some trails that I guess would be like tighter, like more ATV road?
Yeah, definitely some. I'd have to call up the map. Give me a sec.
I'm just thinking, okay, I know in our system we have the name. So I'm like, okay, if I know this trail's like this and this trail's, but with the numbers, you got to remember, okay, number this, number that. These numbers are like, and there's so many. I'm just thinking.
Are some of the trails designated as, say, ATV or mountain biker or hiker only just because they're so narrow, or is everything pretty open to everybody?
Everybody, yeah.
Pretty much. So the ratings right now are based, if you had a map, it's based off of the ATVs, how difficult the ATVs would be. So, for example, Trail 93, which is the hydro line, we'd have no issues with it, but it would be considered a black trail for ATVs.
Oh, okay.
So they've got, the ATVs are moving to a graded system. Green, orange, red, black. And then that's going to be so green's easy or just obvious. So they don't, for example, with a black trail, they don't even have to go out and look at it to see if it's maintained or not. It's basically, you're on your own. But the other ones, they do have to, we've got volunteers out pretty much every day, every other day, cutting down fallen trees, We've got a couple of guys working on a new culvert on the hydro line. So there's all stuff there.
Yeah.
And that's what that membership goes towards too, right?
That's exactly it. So that we typically, the VMUTS board rents a small Bobcat type excavator and uses it for about 4 weeks on the system at a time. And so they'll drive out, do this section, move it, do another section, move it. They're trying to keep it so the ATVers enjoy it. We have a little bit more because we have, in most cases, a little bit better ground clearance, but we're a little bit wider, right? So there's some back and forth between both.
I think it's nice though. I feel like sometimes they're on the trails and it's actually nice to see and come across the ATVers or different groups of people, because then you just shoot the shit and they're like, hey, and you guys go around first. You guys are smaller, and it's nice camaraderie, and it's good to have the multi-use system like that and to share it. And then you're right, like when having different organizations together, you work together to keep the trails open, keep it maintained.
Absolutely. Like we actually have a couple of trails set aside for winter wheeling. Winter wheeling is awesome. I hate it. I'm actually going to give a plug to my buddy. He's got a YouTube channel, Rugged Ryan, and he's actually it's about a half-hour video of us. I believe, Trish, you said you did some winter wheeling, eh?
Yeah.
Up there?
Yep.
Okay, so we got from where you were, we got exactly about 500 meters more further down the trail, and it took us 6 hours to get back off of it.
Yes, 6 hours and literally 7 kilometers. It was great.
Oh yeah, no, we went in on one trail. The problem is it goes out of one of the trailheads, and so it was packed down by skidoers taking a shortcut. It's not an actual sanctioned skidoo trail. We have permission to be there by the VMUTS committee, but because the skidoos were using as a back and forth, the width of the Jeeps, you get one set of tires on one side on the pack down, and then the other tires would come off and you were up to your waist.
Yeah, literally.
So we got 5 of us in there. I think there was 8 in the group. And I think we got 5 of us in there at about 11 o'clock in the morning. And I made it the furthest because I was leading. And I got less than 100 meters off the main trail. And then that was it. We spent the next 5.5 hours just getting the Jeeps turned around and winched out or pulled out. Put it this way. We were coming back into Mattawa. This is the middle of March. We're coming back into Mattawa at 6 o'clock at night, and it's already dark. And I finally get into cell service because it's really spotty cell service out there. And all of a sudden I get a ping from my wife. She's, "Are you okay? I'm about to call the cops because I haven't heard from you in 5 hours." It's the only time she's ever actually threatened to do that. So it was wicked. But Ryan actually videotaped all of it and put it up on his YouTube channel. And he's the guy that drives the Frontier.
The Frontier, yeah.
Nice. And what was his channel name again?
Rugged Ryan. Rugged Ryan's Wilderness.
Perfect. We'll have to check it out for sure. Rugged Ryan's Wilderness.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go wheeling anywhere in Canada and you had the opportunity, the time, and the money to do it, where would you go?
Oh, I'd be kind of in your backyard for sure. I want to hit Moab. I want to hit Black Bear Pass in Colorado. Like I want to hit Roche Off-Road Park in Pennsylvania. There's so many places I want to go, but Canada, absolutely BC would be number one on the list. I wouldn't mind the East Coast. There is a loop just over in Quebec, not far from me. Currently, it's a 3.5 day in and out to get, just to do the loop. I think that's called the Swisha Loop, I think.
Oh,
okay, I've heard of that. Yep. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah,
it's 3.5 days to make it back out from the front.
Are you talking about that's Calabogie, no?
No, it's in Quebec.
Oh, it's in Quebec. No. Okay. But I've heard of it, the Swisher Loop. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's more Rouen-Noranda area, somewhere about there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, somebody mentioned it. I can't remember who mentioned it, but somebody mentioned it a while ago. But I agree with you that BC is absolutely beautiful. And that's why BC has the most, for YouTubers, because we do have such beautiful area. But we have met so many interesting people from the East Coast through this podcast that I really want to hit the East Coast and go over there and do some, like probably more overlanding than anything, but I also want to hit Tuktoyaktuk and I want to hit everywhere.
No, East Coast and Quebec would be fun. But yeah, the Canadian Shield seems to be where it's at for me just because of all the stuff that we can see.
But you guys got some great wheeling up there in anywhere's Barrie North kind of idea or Parry Sound North. And there's been so many different neat events over there over the years too. Everything from the Jeep Jamborees up to Campanelle and all that. So speaking of Campanelle, let's talk briefly about the OF4WD. What's that all about?
So OF4WD, Ontario Federation of Four-Wheel Drive Enthusiasts. Like I said, we're a governing body. We're trying to keep the interests of the 4x4s in the public eye so that it's an education team, it's an advocacy team, a little bit of everything. Everybody that's on the board of directors wheels have their own vehicles. Peter Wood, the president, is one of the Land Rover guys. So there's really, I think Lisa McPherson, our secretary, drives an old Chevy Blazer. We get a little bit of everything. So it's education, it's advocacy. We want to make sure that we don't want to get left out.
Yep. As
things get more modernized and we get more environmentally friendly, we don't want to have us being cut off at the knees and saying you can't do that anymore. New Brunswick just entered if I remember this correctly, New Brunswick just started. In Ontario, you have your OFSC, which is the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Clubs.
Yep.
It's a trail permit. It's like OFATV where you can do whatever you want. They did that. They did OFATV in New Brunswick, but they limited to just ATVs. If it's an ATV or a New Brunswick trail, you can't take the 4x4 on it.
Oh, wow.
So we want to avoid that situation with us in Ontario.
Yeah, you want to work with all the other organizations and work together, and I can definitely see that for sure. We did have, I'm sorry, what's your president's name? Peter? No.
Peter Wood.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have Peter on back at the beginning of April and with a couple other of your members and that. And if you guys haven't listened to it, if you're in Ontario and you haven't listened to it, go back to, I believe it was April 5th, and the interview with the members from the OF4WD. And it was a really interesting, it was a typical hour-long discussion, but it went really into depth about the OF4WDs. Again, we are huge supporters of organizations like that and for all the hard work that you guys do, because everything's volunteer. You yourself, you are so busy. You got so many things going on, but it's everything that everybody does is all volunteer work. And I do want to thank you for everything that you are doing personally, because it's without guys like you, we may not have these trails around for our kids. So
absolutely. Like I just enjoy getting out. Nothing better than driving along and seeing. I remember a couple of years ago we were to do a cleanup run, and as we're driving out to the woods, there's two moose running down the side of the road, and they basically paced us for almost half a kilometer. So that's what
it's all about.
Yep,
definitely. Trisha, what you got?
My fire alarm in my building is going off, so you can hear it.
Oh no!
I'm like, oh no! Apparently, there's a fire on the line floor.
Note. Do you want to check it out, or you?
No, they're just waiting. The intercom went over, so they're just waiting for the fire department to come. Yeah, I'll be fine. Everything's fine.
Alrighty. I got to say, that's the first time we've had a fire alarm on this podcast.
Yes.
There you go.
Is there anything that we missed that you wanted to talk about?
It's a great, VMUTS is a hell of a trail system because there's just a little bit of everything for everybody. The overlanders would love it. The mud crawlers will love it. The rock crawlers will love it. Rookies love it. Seasoned love it. There's a couple of really nice kind of natural points we have at the west end of the trail system. We call it the Lookout. You can see for probably 40, 50 kilometers. And it's a 400 straight down drop on the side of a hill. And then towards the east end, there is a old abandoned mica mine that you can actually walk into. That would be one of the private properties that you have to have the pass to get onto.
Yeah. Yeah, and that totally makes sense for sure.
And it's a great attraction in the summer because the water gets in and freezes in the winter, and it will be mid-July before it's actually completely unfrozen. So you can head out in August. It's a 35-degree day outside, and you walk in front of the mine, and the air coming out is at least 15 degrees cooler.
Yeah.
So you have to put a jacket on to go inside in the middle of the summer. So one of my favorite spots anytime.
Definitely, for sure. So here's a question that Trisha loves to ask. I notice that she's gone there for a second, but so you okay there?
I'm moving rooms to get, so I don't have to hear the alarms.
It's all good. One of the questions that I know Trisha loves to ask is, have you named your Jeep?
Oh, yeah.
The first couple I had, I did. My first Jeep was school bus yellow. It was, of course, named Tonka Truck. And then I had a black 17 four-door Rubicon with red writing, so that became Ruby. Gladiators, not so much. I'm currently one of the flat gray, what they call Stingray.
Yep.
And I nicknamed it Mako, but it never really took with the kids or anything like that. So
yeah, it's got to work with the kids too. So
absolutely.
So your kids, you take the kids out often when you're out wheeling? Like obviously if you're taking the trailer out and camping in that, or?
Believe it or not, no. I have 3 boys, not boys. They're 23, 21, and going to be 18.
Okay.
They
got their own lives.
Yeah, the younger 2 aren't really into camping and or outdoorsing. My oldest is. He had a Jeep for a little while. He had an old 2000 TJ. He ran for about 7 months, and it up and died on him, and that was it. He actually got a proper car. Should be noted that he mentioned to me it was 23 years old and it had 23 owners by the So when you buy a car in Ontario, you get the history of the ownership, and that's what he got. It had 23 owners in the 23 years that have been on the planet. So he came out with us. He actually came with us to Camp NL last year, and because I was helping with the organization, he actually wheeled my Gladiator out on the trails.
Nice.
So second time ever wheeling, he's on Scotch Line in Minden. So he enjoyed that a lot. He actually won the rookie driver at Camp NL last year.
Nice.
So yeah.
So is he thinking about getting back into a Jeep eventually?
He will eventually. Right now, he works in the mining industry, and he's been all over the country. He's been to BC. He's been to mines in Nunavut. He's been in mines in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. And actually, he's gearing up. The company has mines over in Kazakhstan. When he's gone for a week or 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
So it's exactly. Enjoys it though. He has fun with it. So.
Yeah. As long as that's the one thing I've found over the years. As long as you enjoy your job, it just makes it so much easier to do it. So I'm 52 years old, and I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. If we could actually make any money at podcasting, we can do podcasting, but I'm putting out money every month for podcasting. So
I hear
it's going the wrong way.
The amount of money I spend on gas in the summer is horrifying.
Exactly. Trisha.
Yes.
Did you want to ask the last question?
Sure. Last question we ask all our guests is, what Canadian would like to listen to on the 4x4 Canada podcast?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably I'd love to hear, I don't know if you guys know who Jerry Kiso is.
No.
Okay. Trish would have heard of this. Letterkenny?
I know Letterkenny, like the TV thing, right?
Yeah. The main actor, Wayne, that's Jerry Kiso.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's also in the new Shorzy, which if you haven't seen it, you need to see that. My God, is it funny?
I haven't seen it. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it yet. So
yeah,
definitely worth checking out for sure. Trisha, how are you making out there with your fire alarm?
It's going. Nothing, no word yet. It's just going. So we'll see.
Well, I think
is that I live like 21 stories up. So if
Oh,
I need to
geez.
get down, it's going to be a nice workout day.
Yeah, because
Well,
they'll turn off the
and-
elevators, right?
And the worst part is it's somebody who probably burnt toast.
I know, probably.
As Trisha reminds herself that she's got toast sitting in her toaster.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up here with poor Trisha having to listen to that fire alarm. Again, we're talking with Josh from the Northern Ontario Off-Road Jeep Club, NOORJC as we've nicknamed it there, and as well as VMUTS which is a huge, as you've obviously heard, a huge ORV area or for everything from quads to the 4x4s and hikers and mountain bikers, etc. I want to definitely thank you for coming on tonight, Josh. It's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot about an area that I know very little. I've driven through North Bay, but that's about it. And I know Trisha would love to go do some wheeling up there this summer.
Again, yeah.
She's coming. Yeah, you're coming up. Come on.
Coming up. I'm there almost every weekend, so I'll message you.
I work in the auto industry myself. I actually sell Hondas. So I'll give a shout out to my employer, Northern Honda. But I usually work most Saturdays, so pretty much every Sunday I'm wheeling.
Nice.
Okay, nice.
There we go. Awesome, Josh. I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I know it's a little bit later over there, and appreciate you coming on tonight and talking about everything over there in Northern Ontario. And definitely an area I'd love to learn more about myself as well.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
And hopefully we can get Trisha up there and get you guys doing some wheeling on a nice sunny Sunday and go from there. But yeah, once again, thank you very much. And we will chat soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh.